Hello, everyone. Welcome to Branded Society. I am your girl, Kimberly Marissa.
Yeah, it's your boy Led Jetta. What up?
Yes, we are here, and we were so close to it being the Three Amigos again. We were
Yeah,
so close. But Tip had an emergency that just happened, and so she will be joining us. Hopefully, she'll be listening in, but she will be rejoining us, God willing, next Friday. We will all be together.
right, right. Listen, things happen sometimes, like you said. So we gotta stick with Plan B. Just let it go and let her do what she gotta do. You know what I mean?
Exactly,
Love
exactly.
you, sis.
Yes. So, but yes, today's topic, we are talking about Plan B
Ah.
and how you need to throw that out the window.
Mhm.
Yes, just like my bell sleeves. Yes, we are always taught, you should make sure you have 6 months, a year's worth of savings. We're told that, you can't do something until you get your credit right. We're told that, you must stay at your job and then build it in the background and then leave your job once it's at a point where it's fully self sufficient. Like we're told all these things. And there's nothing wrong with the advice. It's great advice. It's great advice. But oftentimes, for most entrepreneurs, when they share, they actually don't have most of those things in order when they really go full force into their business, building their brand. A lot of the times, it's just this moment that you have, and you realize, I'm taking the training wheels off.
Right.
I'm not going to stay at the job. I'm not going to stay in the level that I'm at. I'm going to spend the money on that. I'm going to, invest in me. And so I don't want anyone to be too nervous because, contrary to what it may feel like with a plan B, throwing it away may feel like it's reckless. It's actually not. It's really not reckless. So we first want to address this. At first, looking at one of the main reasons you actually do need to throw away your plan B when it is the right time for you.
Right.
And that is to really get yourself focused, to apply all of your energies to whatever's your business, whatever's your brand. So, Learjetta, with all of that being said, how has your plan B or no plan B experience been? And when you decided to just have a plan A, what is your main focus? What are you going to really focus on? Why is it that now you're like, nope, no more plan B?
Because I noticed that. Well, first to answer your question, my first focus is the music. Full time
Mhm.
ministry, helping lives to change. That's my first job, and I noticed that I always was. Plan B was always actually interfering rather than
Mhm.
helping out. So a lot of times when we have Plan B, we lose time, we lose productivity,
Mhm.
um, and it's always a cost. So it's like you may have, let's say, a job making.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying quit your job. Just hear me. I'm saying you may have you may say, okay, well, I'm going to go in this job and I'm going to stay here for the next 2 years and do this and do this and do
Yeah.
this. Have the whole shebang planned out, and then God forbid, like let's say that job closes down, or they like, oh, we downsizing. I mean, all these
Yeah.
little weird things,
That
or
happens.
it's not working out the way you plan on to, like your
Mhm.
life, your bills, your expenses. So now you're not able to save the plan B that you had. So now you're realizing when it's all said and done, plan B really didn't catapult me the way I thought it was going to catapult me.
Mhm.
And a lot of times plan B is out of fear.
Yes.
Uh, Most people plan B is out of fear. Like when most people say, okay, plan B, it's like either fear, disbelief, or you're really kind of counting yourself out the race already. For most people, that's
Mhm.
what plan B is. And for me, I start looking at it different. Where I say, you know what? If you have a plan B, let it coincide with plan A. Let it be
Mhm.
something really simple, like this resource is going to go over here and it's going to help with plan A. Like let it always coincide the way, because sometimes we plan and then we stop working on plan A because plan B
Yeah.
now is the plan A. You know,
Yes.
it really is.
Exactly.
So,
Yes.
I feel like in answering that question, I threw it away because I noticed that it was always clashing. It was I had
Hmm.
all these goals, I had all these ambitions. I'm like, oh, I need to do this. I'm gonna save this amount, and it always hurt me more than it helped me. And I
Hmm.
realized in these past few of just sticking to plan A, there has been
Hmm.
more open doors. Listen, guys, I'm gonna say this to you. It gets scary. I'm not gonna sit here and talk like it's all like, oh, well, yeah, I'm gonna just no. Listen, man, you got to pay the bills.
Hmm.
You
Yep.
got things to do. But if you're not willing to give certain things up for your dreams, like what are you willing to? There's a cost for everything. So
Definitely.
there's a cost, and you have to weigh it out. And this is why I would encourage anybody when you do plan A, weigh it out. But if you have another plan, don't let it be a plan that pulls you away. Let it be something that's going to go towards and feed the main thing.
Hmm. I love that. I love so much of what you said because it resonates with me, as well as I just think that it's also one of those. It rings true for so it will ring true for so many people.
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that you said clashes, because even though we always reference our business or brand as like our child, and it is,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's not literally a child. It's more sometimes it's almost like a husband or a wife. And so when you have your plan A and your plan B simultaneously,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times it's like trying to juggle two relationships at the same time.
All right.
And eventually you are going to have to choose.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to choose. That's just
Yeah.
what happens. And so for me, uh, what I'm focusing on right now, is I really everything is everything is about my business. So that is my focus. But what I really want to do is really focus now on my time and
Yeah.
how I'm allocating my time. Because even within your plan A and you not having a plan B, the more you grow your business or your brand, you will have branches to it. And
Yes.
those can turn into plan Bs and plan C.
Yeah.
And you have to always stay focused and understand what is the main, like
Right.
what gets, if everything has to fall apart, what is it that's not going to fall, that you're not going to let fall apart.
Right.
And so that's what I am trying to do right now, is maintain what is the number one, the numero uno, and
Right.
not allow the other branches that I do. Like Branded Society is a branch.
Right.
I have another show that I do, on Saturdays. That's a branch. A Bible study on Saturdays. Now I'm starting to sell on a different platform that combines social media. That's a branch. Then I
Right.
have my current business that
Right.
is what sustains me. That's a branch. And then I have what I've always talked to you guys about, which is my subscription company that I'm building.
Right.
That is a branch. So those are lots of branches. They all are me and they all are part of my business. But now I am challenged with deciding which one matters most and really staying focused and bringing everything so that it's still focusing in on what matters. So
Right.
that's what plan not having a plan B is that
Right.
you don't want to start, like you said, kind of like getting distracted or having things clash.
Right.
So I don't want any of my branches to clash. And so that's why I'm not going to create them in competition
Right. Like
with my main thing, which is
right.
building my website. That is the main thing. I got to focus 100% on that and let everything else help that and
Right.
not take away from it.
Right. Like earlier today when we started, I was like, plan B going with the show. And that's an
Mhm.
example of not really having a plan B, but it's like, okay, Tiffy G couldn't make it today.
Mhm.
And we weren't like, oh my God, we got to shut down the show. What
Yes.
should we do? It's like, no, we still have to keep the show
Mhm.
going because, she's a part of the show. We didn't say we're not panicking. We know that as a collective,
Yes.
we all agree that, listen, if Leah Jetta can't make it, if
Yes.
Kim can't make it, if Tiffy G, we still have to do this show
Yes.
anyway because this is
Exactly.
our show. So it's not really planned. It's just we have to have where the main thing is always staying first. And this is today is an example of that. That
Yes.
we have to keep the main thing going forward because a lot of
Mhm.
times what we do is we do things that clash things. And I
Yes.
love how you mentioned time because a lot of times we take that for granted
Mhm.
where we don't portion out our time to get work done, to get to the next
Yes.
phase, or like right now, we talked a little bit last week about revamping.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a total revamp now because like things are starting to happen with life, career, ministry, this.
Awesome.
So it's like I'm in this transitional stage where my time has to be managed better now because of so many
Mm-hmm.
things. I'm being called for music. I'm being called for, ministry. I'm being called for different things. So it's like my time now definitely has to be balanced. So I was sitting down the other day and I'm like, you know what? I have to definitely do a better job at managing my time because
Mm-hmm.
even between that, I have another business on the side that I do.
Mm-hmm.
That I have to give to that so that I can bring money in.
Yes.
And then I have a son. So, some things now as life going, those retweaks, come
Mm-hmm.
along, but it has to still be where the retweaks can't be where something is making the main engine stop. You know what I mean?
Exactly. 100%. 100%. And that's why we really wanted to kind of do this episode today about Plan B, is because also like what you said, Leah Jetta, where you started out and you were talking about how, you used to have Plan Bs, like all of us. We'd have that job, we'd have this other thing that would come along, and we're like, okay, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to still try to work on my thing. But inevitably, that Plan B or that job or whatever is the other thing that you're working on, it would have it would throw things into the mix that you didn't even plan on. And then it's like, oh, now I got to tend to that. Oh, now I got to do that. Oh, now I got to jump this way. And I bring that up because that's also why you throw away your Plan B, is because you're taking about some of the control. Like you
Yes.
said, you're the one who is ordering your hours in your day. The
Yes.
more you can order your hours, yes, the more you can honestly usually get done because
Yes.
you have more autonomy. With jobs, I remember when I was working, that was one of the biggest reasons I, it was the time for me to leave behind Plan Bs, is because, yes, jobs want you to put them first. They want you to always meet the needs of the business. And so that means putting in more hours. If that means all of a sudden, even if it's not more hours, even if it's just your new project or some new blitz they want to do to the store, whatever, that's more stress. And that stress you take home, because that's what happens to many entrepreneurs. They have that job and the hours are the same, but things happen. There's stresses at that job. So when you come home, you say, okay, I'm going to work on my website. I'm going to work on my music. I'm going to write that book. I'm going to do whatever. You're too emotionally drained. You got the same hours.
You're all over the place, and it's hard to focus on one thing. And I love
Mm-hmm.
how you say you can take your control back, because a lot of times we're not taking control. We're actually losing control because now your time is spread so thin. And then it plays a part in your resources, because if you have so many things going, now your resources are spreading out. And anytime you take on something new, you have to dedicate time to it.
Yes.
So that is losing time. You open up a business, then you open up another business. Then let's say you have an Instagram. Then let's say you have business meetings. Then let's say you got this. Like, everything requires time. So if you're losing so much time that you're not able to be productive, you're not going to see stuff grow. And I think I love how you talked about you have to throw away your Plan B. For most of us, is I think a scary time, and I'm gonna be honest, is knowing when to jump. I think that is like, because sometimes you have that Plan B and you're like, oh my God, you're supposed to be doing something, it's burning inside of you. Your heart is like, and a dream been there for a long, and you just need to do this thing. But then it's like, if I leave this, and that's the part right there.
Well, let's get into that.
Oh
Let's get into that, because that's question number 2.
Right.
Which is, how does it feel to bet on you? Because that's what throwing Plan B is about you, and now putting all your chips. You at the table of life, and you're like, I'm putting all my chips on me. The person that God made me to be, what I think is inside of me, what I think is possible with me. I'm putting all the chips on me. But let's talk about that. With that, let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of that.
Yo, it's intense. It's exciting. And it's also intense. It is, because it's exciting because you're like, all right, I'm going to start this new journey. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then on the flip side, it's like, if I lose this income, or
Yes.
like, because there's a cost. Remember, we talk about that cost.
Yes.
The cost for me was giving up corporate America.
Mm-hmm.
I have had great, backgrounds and resumes
Yes.
and all these things or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
the cost for me was, if I'm going to follow my dreams, I gotta leave corporate
Yes.
America. And now you are thinking about, okay, you got rent to pay.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know,
Yeah.
you got, if you have a family, if you have children, if you have a wife, if you have you just have life period in general.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, what most people are scared of is criticism. When people are like, well, why
Yes.
would
Oh,
you
definitely.
pick up and leave your job, and you got bills and you got this? But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's that thing we talked about biblically wise. For me, it's just like
Mm-hmm.
that saying, the just shall live by faith.
Yes.
You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? And it's like, realistically, there comes a time where, think about this: if you have a dream inside of you
Mm-hmm.
and you never ever ever pursue that dream, you never give yourself a chance to pursue. So you'll get old and you'll
Mm-hmm.
live your life, and you'll get to a certain point where you'll be like, dang, I never went for anything.
Oh
And
yeah,
why?
that's
And think about this.
crazy.
Why? Because what it looked like. Because you're like,
Mm-hmm.
you kept saying, yo, this job, I gotta have this, I gotta have this, these bills. And so you never took the risk. And I think that's the thing. When it comes down to now taking the risk, that's what
Mm-hmm.
most people freeze up. And I can say it is intense because you have things to do. But I guess if this can help anybody out there, one of the things that helped me was, what are you good at? How can you use your skills? Or do you have a skill that can bring in income? Do you have a side hustle? Do you have something you're good at that can help you while
Mm-hmm.
you're following a dream? And if you really believe in yourself, eventually it's going to come to that crossroad
Oh,
where it's going to
definitely.
be now or never.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, it is very stressful, like
Mm.
you said. It's very stressful. Um, and you know, also like you said, I don't know who first had said it, but there's an analogy that you don't want to be that person who is now you're super at an age where you're on your deathbed, so to speak, and all of the possibilities of your life are visiting you at your bedside,
Mm.
and you know that all that you can think about is, well, I wish I would have. And so I am betting on me, and I don't have a plan B because I, like you, I don't want to live this life. This is opportunity. I don't want to live this life and live with the regret of, oh, if I had only tried a little harder, if I had only, I should have done that. You
A
know,
whole bunch of couldas, shouldas, and wouldas,
yeah,
right?
I don't want to live that way. I don't want to do that. But I also, yes, live with the stress of every single week I have to make my own money. I don't have anything that is, I don't have a person I can go to and go, okay, I want to take next week off. Can I get my vacation time? Can I work extra hours and just know that if they say yes, I'll get a certain amount of money? Like, I don't have anything like that. And so, yes, that is very scary,
Right.
very scary. And that is just part of having a business and having the control. It's great because you have freedom, but it's also scary because you have responsibility. No
Yes.
one shares that with you.
Yes.
Like I was just looking at the news before we went on, and they're talking about how so many industries are doing well, but some of the industries that aren't doing well is tech is one of them, and they started laying off lots of people in different big corporations.
Right.
um and those same corporations had crazy great numbers 2020 and 2021 when the height of that pandemic. Shopify laid off over 1,000 workers
Oof.
a week ago. um you know and this is what business is like. You have your highs, and then there are things will change that sometimes are out of your control, how people respond to things, and then you have to adjust, and some of those adjustments are hard. An entire company of 10,000 people, in all honesty, cannot typically afford to go out of business to try to save just 1,000. And that is what it is. Sometimes as an entrepreneur, having no plan B is the fact that you will choose to spend your money, like we said, in one area and not, eat out. You won't spend the money. It's not because you can't have both. That is part of business, and that is part of the scary and the ugly side
Right.
of, yes, betting on you and just going full-fledged into this. We don't want to make it sugar coated, and that doesn't actually change. The higher up you go, you have bigger things. Like once you and I get to certain levels, there'll be the ugly side of, then you have to have lawyers, and the higher you grow, you have teams of lawyers. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter. Having that has nothing to do with your how trustworthy you're. No, it's just the fact that people will now see you totally different.
Right.
They'll see you as a target. It has nothing to do with what, and you have to prepare for that. And that's just one of the ugly sides of it.
Right.
So.
Right. And like you said, like just period, just being like making these changes. Like when you jump like that, it's so many things that come with it. It's like, even for, like you said, people making a decision to say, dang, we got to lay off 1,000. That's a big decision to have to make. But again, they have to focus on how can the company survive or whatever is the best for the company. And unfortunately, that's kind of what's best for the company that they have to let go of, and the downside is, as I talked about earlier, you just described what I talked about. If a company lays you off and in your heart, so let's say some of those people who, know they had a dream in their heart, got laid off. Let's say some of those folks right there, and they like, man, I knew I should have did this. I knew I should have did that. It was always on my heart. So now it comes to a point where, are they going to say, I'm going to go for this dream fully and revamp my life? Or are they going to go back to, you know what, I'm going to take another job for the next 5 years. And then,
well, almost all of us had, in all honesty, that opportunity with 2020 because the pandemic shut the world down.
Yes.
For a time of several months straight.
Right.
Globally. There was no, basically, unless you were an essential worker, there was no work. You were not going outside the house. So you make the choice. Do you want to, like you said, pursue your dream, or you want to try to get back on Indeed.com?
Right. I mean, listen, it's a big risk, and that's the bottom line. It don't matter how many ways we put this. When you make that decision to move on from something like this, man, like it's a big deal. It's a real big deal. So I guess like that's the thing for me. Like you said, when it was time to do it, I'm like, I gotta leave everything behind and do this and give it your all. But I've also watched God open doors and do many things for me. And so I mean, it's I'm still growing. I'm not talking like I'm all, but it's like I see the progress, But fear can hold a lot of us back because we fear of living, fear of this, fear of that. And a lot of the biggest people we see in the success stories are people who's like, y'all was sleeping on my car, or I was this.
Exactly.
You see a lot of those stories, but they had to go for the dream. If it wasn't for that, they wouldn't be where they are now.
I think that's what's so important. And that's also what honestly does, inspire me and keep me, part of what keeps me going is to know that, in all honesty, the struggle is real. Like people like to quote that, but like, oh, the struggle's real. No.
Oh, it's real.
The struggle is real, but it's almost like an initiation. That is part of it. You don't really sidestep that. And the people who truly do sidestep that, oh, my eyes watering. The people who truly sidestep that, typically those are not people who, in all honesty, really were going on it on their own. It's not a real going in on it on their own. I remember the whole controversy with Kylie Jenner when it was announced that she was a self-made billionaire.
Right.
And that was a huge controversy because for many people it was like, well,
you was born into this family.
Yeah. You were already positioned very well. Doesn't mean they're not going to give you your props, but
you was kind of in a winning position to begin with.
I mean,
versus that dude sleeping out of his car, making something happen.
Yes. Now she has definitely, to build anything up.
Right.
You have to put in work.
Right. But nobody say she didn't work, but the whole self-made thing when you were kind of put in a certain position is kind of.
Yes. I mean, you were already a millionaire as a teenager before you did anything. So it wasn't, the same.
Right.
But we just bring that up just to show that many people who truly, go the route of building from the ground up, there's a whole period in which you're just building and
Right.
you're struggling and you're trying to make it work and you're sticking, like they say, keeping your nose to the ground and you're building.
Right. Finances can look funny. Everything can look really,
Yes.
really funny. But this is the
Yes.
part where you have to believe in yourself. And it might sound cliche, but you have to because,
Hmm.
when you have a dream, think about that as a dream. And you're literally working to make that dream become a reality. So
Hmm.
that's the grind process. Now you take it as vision and you're working towards making it a real living thing.
Amazing. It's an amazing journey, guys. But yes, there is good, bad, and ugly to it.
Mhm. Yes, there is.
So now we talked a little bit about time, how that affects, but I really do think that it really affects. Like the biggest resource any of us have is actually time, because that is the magic sauce in many cases, is how you're able to utilize your time and how you choose to utilize your time.
Mhm.
And so time is so important. And I want to get into you talking about, like, how did time affect your choice to forego plan Bs and actually go all the way in on just your main plan? So I'll start it off. For me, I realized that what I was doing with my time was not getting me to where I truly wanted to be in life. It wasn't just about that I didn't want a boss.
Right.
It wasn't just about that I wanted to, buy a bag or go on a vacation or even buy a house. Because I know that sometimes these are the reasons why people choose to or not choose to do things.
Mhm.
But I realized that I was working and I was putting in a lot of time and energy um, into actually a side hustle. So much so that, like you said, Learjetta, it caused a conflict with my main hustle,
Right.
because I only have the same amount of hours in the day. Like, I don't get extra.
Right.
And so I realized that if I was going to have the time to use and I'm using it to do something that is not getting me to where I wanted to go, I was like, no, this is backwards. And I was working for myself, but I had turned a hustle. I was doing shit. And I had turned that into, it became almost like a main hustle because I was making so much money from it.
Hmm.
And I say that time is more important because sometimes we can get confused with success that comes monetarily. I was getting good money from that. And yet I knew that I had to step back because even that had become a plan B. And I had to take the cut, which it was a drastic cut, and stop that automatically. And that's what caused me. That was the time crunch because I was exhausted doing it. And I saw that it was eating away so much of my time that when I finished, I barely touched my real business. It was in ICU. It was still alive, but it was barely alive. And so that's what made me let go of my plan B very much so, is because I just saw that my time now, I felt I was doing something that was exhausting me. And it was just giving me money, but it was not giving me a future.
Yeah,
It wasn't
likewise.
giving me a future.
Right. Likewise, I felt like same thing you said. I feel like I was spending too much time on stuff, and
Hmm.
what I really wanted to do, I wasn't doing it. And this is
Hmm.
why I say sometimes we do things out of panic.
Yeah.
Even when I was doing my plan B, what was the plan B? I got to put food on the table. I have things to
Hmm.
do. I got my son,
Yeah.
and I have 1,000 other things I have to do to to
Hmm.
provide. So my thing was more like but then I realized even in doing that, I was taken away from the goal I originally set. So I
Hmm.
had to come back to that place. Okay, if I'm going to do this, this is where my time, my
Yeah.
schedule, my productivity, and I start to see that everything really matters. Sometimes you hear people say it, or you
Hmm.
seek
Yeah.
counsel and you talk to people who are really, doing it. But then you see why people have schedules set. You see why people
Yes.
have certain things. You see why people have routines. You see why people have
Mm-hmm.
meditation time. You see why people like, listen, read a book. You start to see the benefits and all these
Mm-hmm.
like these things are very necessary if you're gonna embark on a journey like this. Your time has to be used wisely, because you can wind up escaping the original vision
Yep.
and not doing what you're supposed to do, because your plan B is mostly, for most people, I'm gonna say it again, a panic button.
Yep.
I have to do this. I have to do this. Oh, it can't
Mm-hmm.
fail. And it's like, following this dream is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take some work.
Yes.
It's going to take doing things. So for me as an artist, I'm in full-time ministry now completely.
Mm-hmm.
So now my whole life had to change around that. And then now I'm getting calls where I have to take a lot of meetings. I have to be on the go. I have to go places.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, for now, my life has to now make a change around that. Then I'm recording and I got new music. So it's like everything done took such a turn since I took this leap. And I realized, if I'm going to stick, because I still have to write, regardless of how much things I have to do. I can't get caught in one area, because I still have other things to do. I still have to study. I have to, so it's all beneficial. So absolutely, my time definitely have to be, balanced. I had to change my schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And then also resources. You start to, like you said earlier, if you like to eat outside so much, no, as an entrepreneur, sometimes while you're growing, that's not an option. You have to, nope, I'd rather go food shopping. If you can spend $300 a month on food shopping versus on outside food, guess what? Got to start food shopping and cooking. Get to that stove.
This is very true. This is very true. Or you could be like me and order one meal and eat it.
Right. But it can't be every day or spending all that money. That's the resource.
But I don't advise that for anybody else, because that's just my little cartoon way of eating. But I agree. I mean, time, that's why we're talking so much, because time is it's so important. I don't think people realize how important it is until, honestly, it's too late. Like, people really realize when it's very late how important time is. And you can have success at any age. So we're not saying there's a cutoff. And you can have, success after many failures. There's no limit that that we can control and say this is the limit. But we do want to encourage everyone that time, you don't know what your tomorrow brings. And so you should try to use the time you have in front of you to the best of its ability.
Yes.
And also I want to add, and I want us to talk a little bit about the fact that just because you don't have a plan B does not mean that your plan A doesn't have different versions and different iterations to it. I've learned that my plan A, the more I give to it, the more it actually starts to grow, almost like a flower. That's why I also mentioned branches. Your plan A will evolve. So we're not saying a plan A is set in stone from the time you say, okay, it will evolve. And so you will make changes, and it will have different looks sometimes, in different phases. And so don't be scared of that, because I know that even right now, I'm supposed to do another show today. And I rescheduled it again for Sunday, and I decided, oh no, I have to really reorganize my time, because there was a lot that happened in the last 2 weeks, especially the last week. A lot of change happened in my life in the last week. I had a guest, my little nephew, and then it happened at the exact same time when I had my first selling live experience. And then on top of that, I had literally just hired my virtual assistant. So I had 3 new things happening simultaneously.
Right.
And that's what I want you to know. Even with plan A, you have to prioritize the order of things.
Yes.
And so this last week, there was a lot of newness that entered into my sphere. And now I was trying to keep it going. And I was like, nope, we got to take a pause. Not stopping anything, but pause I rescheduled it. I was like, okay, we got to reevaluate how we're doing these, because everything has to link up, because everything has to be plan A. Plan A is all about AM style box. So everything has to work and give place and space for that.
Right.
So don't be afraid also, and I wanted to share that. Don't be afraid that your plan A will have different levels to it.
And listen, likewise, since I'm on the same page as you, this weekend is dedicated to reorganizing my whole schedule. Things
Mhm.
have gotten real. You know, it has gotten so real as far as, just business happening. And it's funny because you think, well, this is going to be good. But I'm like, dang, I'm like, oh. So it really showed me my
Mhm.
time have to be put into, better perspective. So
Yeah.
I sat downside this week. I got to fix my schedule up a little more because now I just got more, engagements and things coming up that I was
Mhm.
asked to do, and so my schedule have to change. And then on top of that, I have been kind of a little falling back from my social media for these
Mhm.
past couple with so many things going on behind the
Yeah.
scenes. So I have to get back on top of that.
Yeah.
I have to
Mhm.
work on my website that I have to get ready to release. It's been so many in between things, but it's been great. But it's also shown me that with progress, you have to stay.
Yes.
Preparation and progress is important.
Yes. Yes. And
Yes.
that I think that that's why we're both sharing this is because we want you to know that when you let go of your plan B, it is not reckless. It's really taking on way more responsibility
Yes.
because you now have no excuse. One, you have no excuse. Um, and two, like Learjetta was sharing, you start to see that you will have all of these things that now can work, but you have to work them properly. And that is a responsibility in itself. It's not saying, because I don't want people to take away that plan A means you only do one thing. That's not what plan A means. Plan A just means that your one thing, you're using the different elements to make it happen
Right.
as long as it is helping it. Now, if it's not helping it, that's when you have to cut. You have to be like, okay, no, I got to cut
Right.
this out.
Right.
That's another plan, and we don't want another plan. That's going to take me off course. And so that's what we're both sharing with you, with the audience. What we're doing is that we're trying to stay on course with
Yes.
our one goal or one plan.
One goal and one plan, because everything you take off is going to chew into your time. I mean, everything you take on, excuse me, is going to chew into your time.
Mhm.
So plan A, if plan A is, listen, you got your job and you putting into this, and you got your studio schedule, you got your
Mhm.
schedule for your store, and you working, stick to that. Don't be like, yo, I'm gonna take on 2 extra part-time jobs, and now
Mhm.
you're gonna start putting yourself in a whole different mindset. So
Mhm.
sometimes you have to make the sacrifice. If it's money, sometimes don't look at you need extra money. Look at what you can stop spending. Look at what you can
Mhm.
cut back on. Sometimes it's not so much. Sometimes we think it's all about the money, money, money. No, sometimes if we cut back, we'll find we actually have more money than what we think. And I've been learning
Oh
that too.
yeah.
You'll find out that you actually have more money to help you rather than take on that extra side gig because you need your
Mhm.
time. So throw away your plan B because plan B is a lot of times the
Yeah.
panic button.
It's so true. And this even goes, I just want to say before we sign off, this even goes to people who have no business and have no brand because you are a brand. Because I have been on jobs, Learjetta has been on jobs, and we both can attest to people have said on jobs that they're going to use this job to do this, use this job to do that. Something as simple as, oh, I'm this year, I'm going to buy my house. But you know what I've seen people do? The moment they have a rough day, I'm not going to do overtime today. Overtime's
Yeah.
available. I'm not gonna do overtime today.
Yes.
Then another week goes on and they're like, I'm tired. I don't want to do that. Or oh, they got on my nerves. I'm like, and we're bringing this up because this works for whatever's your goal. Just make sure that you keep your goal your real goal. That is the point. That's your plan A. And
Yes.
so even with jobs, you can have plan A's on the job.
Yes.
And I see many people just go to work and they even had goals at the job and they're like they just let them fall to the wayside because of feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like doing that today. I'll do, and they say, okay, well, next Christmas I'm going to do all the overtime, and you see how that adds up, and then you're
Right.
there 5 years, and
And
it's
then
like,
you got nothing to show for the 5 years. And this is what we talked about at the beginning. So just know this: Plan A, plan well.
mm-hmm,
Is really sometimes we can over plan for perfection. Know that it's going to be little hiccups here and there.
yes,
Sometimes those things come out of nowhere. But the most important part is be consistent, stick to your goals, and
mm-hmm,
focus on that vision. That's the biggest.
definitely, definitely. Well, I don't know if anyone has any questions. But if there are no questions, we are very much looking forward to seeing you guys next Friday at 6 with all three of us.
Yeah.
And have some updates too, because I know that all of us are working on things. And, like we both shared, there's been a lot of things, moving parts going in the background. And so soon we'll be sharing with you even more updates exactly for our businesses and our brands.
Yes.
But until next Friday.
Peace.
Later.